to tonight's debate on my private member's bill, I'd like to acknowledge ha-Shoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is actually today, ha-Shoah. So today is a time, I feel, to renew our commitment to combating anti-Semitism in all of its forms.
That was the sound Wednesday evening in the House of Commons as Canadian politicians debated a proposed private member's bill for the first time that would ban Holocaust denial and make it punishable by 2 years in prison. And although the Conservative MP Kevin Waugh, who proposed his private member's bill, admitted later that he was nervous and so that's why he stumbled on the actual correct way to pronounce Yom HaShoah, the Saskatchewan politician did not mistake the significance of the timing of the debate, held on the eve of the solemn day for Jews when around the country and around the world gathered to remember the 6 million Jewish victims of the Nazis in the Holocaust during the Second World War. Waugh quoted some Jewish community leaders from his home city in Saskatoon.
When the Holocaust is denied, Jewish people die. This malignant seed of hate left unchecked threatens Jews at home, in their synagogues, and within their communities. Anti-Semitism, the most pernicious hates, is the canary in the coal mine.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Thursday, April the 28th, 2022. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. It was a historic debate for Canada's Parliament. As we told you earlier in the week, there are two nearly identical proposals to ban Holocaust denial right now moving through the House of Commons, but Kevin Waugh's came first back in February. And then the Liberals put mostly the same wording in their new budget bill. But until that budget gets passed, Waugh's version keeps going forward. And that's why his was debated for over an hour last night. I watched the debate and the speeches from the MPs. There were 4 parties who spoke, and the speeches were so powerful, I thought you should hear some of them right here on the CJN Daily. So coming up, a highlights package from Kevin Waugh of the Tories and Melissa Lantsman, also of the Tories, Liberal Anthony Housefather, NDP Blake Desjarlais, and from the Bloc, René Villemure. The Green Party did not speak. But first, stay tuned for this important message.
From award-winning journalist Marcia Lederman comes Kiss the Red Stairs, a compelling memoir of Holocaust survival, intergenerational trauma, divorce, and discovery that will guide readers through several lifetimes of monumental change. Marcia was 5 when a simple question led to a horrifying answer. She asked her mother why she didn't have any grandparents. Her mother told her the truth. The Holocaust. Decades later, her parents dead and herself a mother to a young son, Marcia begins to wonder how much history has shaped her own life. Reeling in the wake of a divorce, she craves her parents' help. But in their absence, she is gripped by a need to understand the trauma they suffered, and she begins her own journey into the past to tell her family stories of loss and resilience. Kiss the Red Stairs, available now wherever books are sold.
I'm Ed Fitch of Victoria, British Columbia, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
First up, the Conservative MP for Saskatoon Grasswood, Kevin Waugh.
Ignorance and intolerance must be confronted and condemned wherever it exists. Ideally, I would be happy if this criminal code amendment were never used. Punishment is the last resort. Criminalization is an imperfect tool, but it's also an important tool to stop a behavior that we as a society consider offensive. Criminalization is also an important step towards changing attitudes in this country. Criminalization will help draw a moral limit on the erosion of history. It will be a message to those who wish to erase historical truths. Suppression of anti-Semitism is not the goal. Education is the key to ending anti-Semitism and the hateful fallout which comes from ignorance. Education is the safeguard of history. Holocaust denial is not free speech. It is an abuse of free speech, an abuse that freedom we all cherish in this country. It is an attack on the Canadian values and our respect for diversity. If we stand by and allow history to be erased by allowing the Holocaust to be denied, distorted or minimized, we allow democracy to be eroded.
Next is René Villemure from the Bloc Québécois, Trois-Rivières riding. He says his party supports Waugh's plan, but worries that giving Jews alone this special status could backfire. Now, he spoke in French, and you'll hear the House of Commons translation over his audio feed.
We can only be in agreement with the principle of this bill. Ignorance and intolerance must be absolutely condemned. And like him, I believe that education and awareness is essential. However, my question is as follows. I am afraid of pointing out a group in particular in this kind of bill. This could lead to believe that one group is more important than another, and that there would be laws and statutes more favourable to one group rather than another. Now, I know that this is not the intention of the legislator in question. I would like to hear what he could do to the bill to increase its scope as much as possible.
The NDP's Blake Desjarlais from the Edmonton area gave a history lesson about Canada's record in not accepting Jews as refugees during the Holocaust before saying the NDP supports Waugh's bill too.
Canada has an obligation, particularly as a democracy and a vibrant one, to condemn and combat Holocaust denial in every way, shape, and form. The Jewish community has truly suffered from the horrors of the Nazi regime, but continue to suffer. And that is truly a pain that all Canadians must bear. This unique and truly painful experience is one that we must learn from and overcome. New Democrats welcome Bill C-250 in hopes that it will finally tackle this long-standing denial, which puts today's generation at risk.
Anthony Housefather is a Liberal MP for Mount Royal and Parliamentary Secretary for Public Service and Procurement. He says it's more than likely Waugh's bill will disappear when the Liberal budget gets passed, but he took the opportunity to thank Waugh for being an ally to the Jews of Canada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and again I want to thank my honourable colleague for having put forward this bill. Rarely has a date ever been so apt to debate legislation. This evening is the beginning of Yom ha-Shoah. Yom ha-Shoah is a sacred day. It's a day where we remember with reverence the over 6 million Jews who were slaughtered by the Nazis in the Holocaust. It's a day where we remember all of the victims of the Holocaust, regardless of their origin, whether from the LGBTQ+ community, whether from the Roma community, or whether from any other community. It's a day where we honor the survivors, including those many survivors that came to make their homes in cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. It's a day where we thank the rescuers, those people who were righteous Gentiles who risked their lives to save others. It's a day where we remember atrocities, and it's a day where it is totally appropriate to talk about how we prevent this from ever happening again.
And closing out the debate, Tory MP Melissa Lantsman from Thornhill. She thinks the bill isn't perfect and it won't address the other part of modern anti-Semitism that comes these days in the form of anti-Israel hatred. But as a descendant of Holocaust survivors, Lantsman says it's beyond time to act.
Madam Speaker, the law is necessary as the number of Holocaust survivors, eyewitnesses to the event, decline. And it recedes into history, and it gets further and further away. And as these views are becoming more mainstream and they creep into popular culture, the law will be able to avoid the problem of proving the Holocaust in court before those who deny it are held to account. Members should be aware that this proposal has found its way into the budget. 7 years of inaction, which has seen anti-Semitism become an even more pervasive problem in this country. I hope that this is not theater. I hope that you will support, that members of this House will support this bill. And from what I've heard tonight, I think that is the case. So I will certainly trust the intentions of what is in the budget, but I hope that members will support this bill. Madam Speaker, I will end with this. Ignorance fuels intolerance, and like my colleague said, education is the safeguard of history, and we must continue to teach the truth. The passage of this bill will protect that truth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Eleanor Manyuk of Toronto. And we'll end the show with some of the Yom HaShoah ceremony held at Toronto's main Holocaust monument on a very cold and windy evening at Earl Bales Park. Special thanks to Alex Rose of the CJN for recording the Toronto Jewish Chorus led by Judy Gershon.